All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. You're here with Tom and George. George just took a business phone call, so he is here. You should be able to see him, but he's on a call, so you'll be able to hear him shortly. Welcome to another week over. A disappointing week from my perspective for the Bitcoin miners. We'll see what you guys think. We'll get into this. A bunch of stuff went on this week, so we got a million things to go through. But the first thing to look at, in my opinion, is the big board here on, you should see on the side of the screen, lots of red. And Bitcoin was up today. So you'll see our gold line is always, this is where Bitcoin was when the U.S. equity markets closed yesterday. It was at around 100,000. So it closed today at around 101,500. So you'll see BlackRock's IBIT was up 1.7%. So day over day, Bitcoin was up about 1.7%. And the Bitcoin miners, with a few exceptions, were mostly red. And, they were getting beat up. They got beat up today. This, to me, was a very bad week for Bitcoin miners. And we can talk about who's getting concerned, who's bailed out, because I thought this was, and this is the second time I've said this in 5 weeks, I thought this was one of the worst weeks for Bitcoin miners in years.
What is it? Do you have that on repeat?
Yeah, exactly. I know. This is not the first time I've said that. I got to get to Midway. Thank you for the super chat, and thanks for being a member. Why do you think the Russell 2000 has been having so many red days recently? On 12 of the last 13 days, it closed lower than where it opened. The Russell 2000 had a really big run up, and you're right. Now it's been trailing. It's fallen back into the pattern that it was in for 2.5 years, which was trailing the other indexes. I think that's going to reverse soon. I actually have a triple long leverage, the Russell 2000, that I'm adding to in small bits, because I think this is just a nice pullback. But I can't give you a reason. I don't think we're in a risk-off environment. I don't know why the small caps would be getting punished this way, but you're right. That has been a problem. That certainly probably corresponds to the problem we're having in our Bitcoin miners, because that's the size companies we're talking about. And yeah, it's just been, 12 out of 13. I didn't even realize it was 12 out of 13 days, but I know it's been red. And the Bitcoin miners have paid for it. And something a little different went on today. A lot of this is shorting. A lot of this is manipulation. But I got a little bit of something different, a little different today. Today, I thought there was just a lack of buyers. And so there's a huge level of disinterest from the retail buyers and the investors. The only time the investors seem to be interested in is when they're shorting them. And when that happens, we had a couple, and I'll get to the charts and show you their volume. Very low. They were way down in the red. On a day Bitcoin was up, some of the Bitcoin miners on very low volume were red or deep red. And to me, that is not a good sign. That's not a good day. I understand the days where we've got, double or triple the daily volume. It all comes in a short burst. You can see that's a lot of shorting going on. That's some manipulation and maybe triggering some liquidations, all those things. That's easier to process. Just a lot of these just drifting down today on basically an up day. That was baffling to me. So today I think was a bad day for the Bitcoin miners. Now, we'll get to, big picture. What does that mean long term? But I'm just saying this week was bad, and I'll show you. I updated the chart for the week. We're going to look at it. It's ugly. A surprise first place finisher on the week this week. One of the Bitcoin miners that typically finishes in last place finished in first, and there was a specific reason, and it seems to be the same reason, the only reason any of these Bitcoin miners ever move, and that is AI. So anything, it just seems like anything. I'm going to show you the article that came out, and it's Riot. And an article came out, anything that even is in any way related to the possibility that maybe someday they're going to do something with high performance computing and AI just sends stocks skyrocketing. Riot yesterday and today had two phenomenal days on, bad days for the Bitcoin miners, and it's on nothing even happened. We'll get to the news story, but and we saw the same thing. Hut 8 had a rumor. They had a gigantic update earlier this week. So right now, the Bitcoin miners are relying on any AI related, incidental information that comes out. As far as Bitcoin mining goes, these stocks at the moment have been abandoned. Oh, I gotta do my thing. Sorry if we got 15 likes. If you could please do us a favor, if you're here, if you just got here, if you could please smash the like button. We're going for 100 likes and then 200 likes. We've been getting to our 100, and a couple of times we got to our 200 recently. So we're at 15 right now. It does make a giant difference in real time. So much appreciate anybody willing to do that.
I was formerly known as Cleanspark to 50.
Cleanspark's one I'm going to look at in particular, getting beaten down in a way that, and I'm not sure it's over. So Ethan saying MicroStrategy is the way to go now, a Bitcoin stock. So Ethan, thanks for being a member. And, that's what Edmund's been saying. Edmund, MicroStrategy number 4 in daily trading volume, just saying. Yeah, I get it, Edmund. And I finally listened. It took me over a year of listening, but I finally joined the party, and I did. So I bought 3 things this week. On the dip, on the first couple of days of the week, most of this downside was Monday and Tuesday. And you can see there was some bad stuff today. But I did average into my MicroStrategy and my Riot on Monday. And I also bought some Bitfarms options, and Bitfarms is flailing. They're a disaster right now. I'm not talking about the company, I'm talking about the stock. It's a disaster. It's in dead last for the year, and it is now not even close. So having said that, I bought some May 2025 options, which I've been dollar cost averaging into, because I believe between now and May, which is, basically 5.5 months, I think they're going to be moving in the right direction by then. That's my personal opinion, not financial advice as always, but I do believe right now the worst is getting priced into Bitfarms. Their market cap is senseless, in my opinion. And Minor Deegan, thanks for being a member, said Riot was the buy Monday after they announced their senior notes. So that's what I've been pretty much doing. Every time one of these announces those notes and they dip, I buy, because typically they then have a big swing to the upside. I didn't do that with Cleanspark, and we're going to go through what happened with Cleanspark because I'm waiting. Some other stuff is going on there. Cleanspark stock is just... It's headed in the wrong direction here in the short, and I'm talking about short-term stuff. How about you, George? What's your opening thoughts?
I only have Marathon.
Right now, you're only holding Marathon.
And I bought more Bitcoin.
So you've been buying the cryptocurrency itself?
Yep, I took money out from one spot and put it into Bitcoin. And I hear they're suppressing Bitcoin.
Well, it's hanging out. You're going to see. And, if we were one 15-minute candle ago, there's this dotted line. I don't know if you guys can see. There's a dotted line at $101,564. That's where that's where Bitcoin closed last Friday when the U.S. equity markets closed. Well, on this is the 4 o'clock candle right here, and we were within $4 of the exact same spot we were a week ago. So all this up and down, and we all ended up all together right back in the exact same place, only you're going to see not so true for the Bitcoin miners. The Bitcoin miners were down, other than Riot, and let's see, because I had to cheat and go out decimal points to show that Riot Here, I'll go to it. So everything, Bitcoin zero, right? Zero. It literally was zero. Everything was negative. There were two winners on this week, and it's hard to call them winners, but BitDeer, which has been on fire. We'll look at what they did last week, but they were still red, down 0.4, and Riot actually was up 0.3, so they were technically in the green on the week. Other than that, this was a straight red week, and we'll get to the article, and this is just on high-performance computing rumors, or if you will. So, they skyrocketed and went from what would have been, minus that, they're up about 12 or 13% off of that press release over a 2-day period. So they would have been right in here with all the rest of them, not for that press release. Pessimistic Frank said Bitfarms is ultra trash. Sourmelon Gaming, and thanks for being a member, and thanks for being a member. Sourmelon Gaming said, Tom, 2022 was a disaster. 2023 was on good cause. The miners were so beat up from 2022, and now 2024 has been a massive underperformance. 2025 looking good for Bitcoin, but miners' outlook looks horrible. That is from Sourmelon Gaming. So Sourmelon Gaming is not optimistic about the Bitcoin miners for 2025. So we're going to do a poll, and I'm going to see, because the volume is showing me that retail investors are just very scared of the Bitcoin miners right now. But as you guys know, these peak fear times, so many times, how many times do we look back and go, oh man, Cleanspark went under 12 bucks. I can't believe I didn't buy it under 12 bucks. And now I didn't even buy it. Under 12, I think Cleanspark under 12 is just madness. And I didn't wait because I think I might get a better opportunity. And if I don't, that is across all my accounts, if I add everything up, my largest position is Cleanspark. So I'm not in any big hurry to add to it, particularly since I bought it heavily through the crypto winter in the $3 to $4 range. So it's hard for me to dollar cost, and I know, that doesn't mean anything. It's, it's at 12 bucks now, so it's hard for me to buy at that. But the real equation should be, it's at 12 bucks. Do you think it's going to 24? If yes, then you ought to think about buying it.
I think that you guys fell in the trap again.
What's the trap? Because you did give us some warnings.
Today is Friday the 13th.
Yes.
We have a full moon over the weekend, and I bet you we have an unbelievable green day on Monday.
So you think Monday's the turnaround, because we have, so the full moon, for those of you who follow along on this channel or others, it's a real thing. For whatever reason, there tends to be some good price action on Bitcoin after the full moon.
How about this? Amazon drivers are going to strike on Sunday, on the 15th. They don't even know why they picked the 15th. I'll tell you why they picked the 15th. It's because it's a full moon.
That's a big strike if that happens.
Yeah, didn't you hear about this one? Yeah, it's getting some traction too.
That'll be ugly. Around a few days before Christmas, that's nasty.
But after Kwanzaa.
Well, let's hope that strike doesn't happen.
I think it's happening.
Because I got some presents that haven't arrived yet, so.
Oh, you got me something, Tom, huh? Thanks.
Anytime. We're at 42 likes. If you guys could do us a favor and smash the like button if you just got here, or if you're here and you haven't hit the like button yet. We're at 42. We're going for 100. It makes a huge difference to the live stream and to the channel. So thank you to those who have hit the like button. And of course, if you like Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners, feel free to subscribe to the channel as well. That is mostly what we talk.
I don't think that's the right spelling.
Of
I think it's like QW something.
Oh, I'm not a very strong speller. I'm more of a left brain or whatever you want to say. Numbers are my thing.
What's going on? Why is Bitcoin going down right now?
Do I need to go to the chart? Is it? It's just hanging around in a range right now. We're at $101,449 on the TradingView Bitcoin Coinbase chart. So I mean, we're up from yesterday. We're virtually in the exact same spot, right? We're $100, $150 away from where we were when we had our live stream last Friday. So, I mean, there wasn't much action. And Ethan said, I do think even with everything, CleanSpark is ridiculously low right now. So I do too. I think a bunch of these are still way undervalued. It's just today is not their day. Now is not their moment. And, you know, some people are starting to argue they're never going to run. So I'm going to do the first poll because I read an article on this today, and it's something we've all heard 100 times. I won't.
They need to stop selling. I think that's the biggest problem with CleanSpark right now is they got to sell basically every single day.
Well, I'm going to talk about that because they've switched gears. If anybody watched my video that I put out on Tuesday, they did exactly what I said they were going to do this week, which is when I said they were going to do it. So, and it's not because I can tell the future. If you watch the video, it was obvious it was time to do that. And everybody in the comments was calling for them to do the same thing. So they did convertible debt. So they have switched from at the market offerings to convertible debt, which, you know, didn't take a genius to predict. The Bitcoin miners, there's been a fundamental shift. They have switched from, and it's ironic because now they're getting punished for it. MicroStrategy has been rewarded for this strategy. They're up 600%. And the Bitcoin miners go do the same thing. You know, everybody's been bitching, pardon my French, about the Bitcoin miners diluting too much. So what do? They switch to convertible debt, and they're getting punished for that. So you can't win for losing right now if you're a Bitcoin miner. The bottom line is there's just not interest. There's not sentiment right now in the Bitcoin miners. So whatever it is that they do, with one exception, if they just say, if I was Bitfarms, I would just put out a press release that just says AI. That's to be the whole title. And then there would be like, we like AI and we're looking into AI and it's going to be a part of our future. And because that's pretty much, that would be more than what the other two companies did. And they got big bumps off of it. And the AI stocks, the Bitcoin AI stocks have been running. People don't care about Bitcoin. They don't care about a hodl position. People are going to fall out of their chair. George, you talked about this on the members only live stream. When the December 31st financial statements come out, there's going to be 4 companies that have mind-blowing quarters. Marathon's going to make $1 billion or more in the fourth quarter. And their stock's at $22. I mean, I feel like selling everything and just buying Marathon. That's not financial advice, and I'm not going to do that, but
how many companies are going to make $1 billion this quarter?
In a quarter.
I know. How many, Tom?
Well, not too many that have a market cap of $7 billion. You don't see too many $7 billion market cap companies make $1 billion in a quarter. So are they priced properly? You guys tell me.
That's the reason I'm in them.
So here, I'm going to throw a poll up.
But I think that even CleanSpark.
Are the Bitcoin miner ETFs the end of the Bitcoin miner stocks? So this has been a massive talking point since they came out. And now I just read a very long article on it. And this person predicting all the Bitcoin miner stocks are dead forever now because people have more direct access by just buying the ETFs. So I will tell you right now, I don't believe that. So I don't believe that. Obviously, I hold a lot of Bitcoin mining stocks. But that doesn't mean I'm right. And Clive, thank you for the super chat and thank you for being a member. There are rumors related to HUT and Meta. Your thoughts? So thank you for pointing that out, Clive. So I'll switch right to that article. And on that day, when that rumor came out, HUT went through the roof. On what was not a good day for Bitcoin miners, HUT went off. Let me see if I can find that. I know I got it. Just a minute. And I can't find it. Oh, here it is. Here we go. HUT 8 rises 12% pre-market amid social media talk of a partnership with Meta. So shares of Bitcoin miner HUT jumped nearly 12%, and they had a good day. They beat everybody that day in pre-market trading amid social media speculation that it is building a data center with Facebook owner Meta Platforms. So I won't read you this whole thing, but AI data center. So this isn't even happening necessarily. This was just pre-market amid social media speculation. So HUT 8 did better in one day than all the Bitcoin miners did all week just because there was speculation they're going to get involved in AI data centers with Meta. So I don't know if this is going to happen or if it isn't going to happen. Clearly, they have substantially shifted gears. They have a lot of high-performance computing infrastructure. So whether it's with Meta, which, that's a big deal. If you can get, with one of the Magnificent Seven companies, that would be a big deal for them. HUT 8 is building a data center in West, I'm not even going to go for that, Louisiana, at an initial cost of $12 billion, local media has reported. So earlier this month, Meta said it was planning to build a $10 billion AI center in what looks like the same place or someplace nearby. I don't know. So, rumor, speculation, AI, and the Bitcoin mining stock goes up big time. So let me go to Riot, because Riot had a big green day yesterday, and I think they were, let's go look, were they the best performer today? They were the best performer on the day today. So Riot, on a day where almost every Bitcoin miner was red, Riot was the best performer on the day. Let me just take a break. I'll get right back to this and get to Midway. Thank you, Midway, for being a member. Thank you for the super chat. My high-risk move today was adding BitDeer shares between $20.50 and $21.50 as it pulled back. My break-even price for BitDeer is down at $11.49, though. One analyst already put a $39 price target on BitDeer. And BitDeer, so Midway, you've done very well on this, and I'm going to go to a chart and show people. So BitDeer, you can see, there was only two Bitcoin mining companies that survived the week this week. Riot, and it was on the announcement I'm just about to show you, and BitDeer, because it's on fire. And I want to go to last week, because last week, on a humdrum week for the rest of the Bitcoin miners, a nice week for Bitcoin, up 5%. BitDeer was up 47%. So BitDeer is on fire. Midway, I know you got in before all of this, so you're in great shape on this. Congratulations to you and anybody else that's in that. That trade's paying off. So all I can say is congratulations. And again, on an awful week, there was only two companies that survived this week. I mean, these are disasters for Bitcoin to be, with $100 of where it was last week, and most of these companies to be down between 12 and 16%. Cleanspark down 20%. So I think people are still digesting. Their convertible debt offering was a little bit more complicated. In fact, I need to read the whole thing, because from the press release, I'm not 100% sure exactly what they're doing with a piece of that money. So, but with the vast majority of the money, this was just another way they're doing convertible debt to raise money, to run operations, to hodl their Bitcoin. They're not going to buy Bitcoin. They don't say in their press release they're going to buy Bitcoin. They say they're going to do several things with it, when mainly what they've always done. They're hodling right now somewhere between 95 and 100% of their Bitcoin every single month. And so they've got to pay with operations with other money. So instead of doing another at-the-market offering, which many of you, including George, has been quite vocal about, they switched gears and did convertible debt. So did that help them? No, they finished in last place.
I don't think that's true.
Well, I mean,
they have both.
They have no more at the market offering. They're at the market.
Did they close it out? Did they close it out?
It's done. So yes.
Wow. Oh, okay.
So their at the market offering is closed. If you guys want a deeper dive on what they're doing, I did a video on Tuesday on this, and I broke down exactly everything, how all of this works. They're at the market. They did it. Their last at the market offering was $800 million. It's closed. They used it all, which is why I knew that they were going to raise money this week, because that
jet, it's freaking ripping through the dollars. Hey, before I forget, Sour Melon Gaming. This was his question in the super chat. When will you get worried if miners continue like this?
Oh, this is outrageous. I do not hate you, Sour Melon Gaming. I apologize. I know this is the second time somehow I missed one of your super chats. So let me go backwards in time. When will you get worried if miners continue like this? So right now, I don't know, but between now and December 31st can be a funny time, because depending on when people got in these stocks, depending on how they want their portfolio to look, anything can happen between now and the end of the year, but we're only a couple of weeks away from that. If Bitcoin runs, up to 110, runs up to 115, and we're in late January and February, and these guys are still stuck here and they are not making a run, I will be worried. And that's not very, I'm talking about a month from now. So a month or a month and a half from now. Now, if Bitcoin's been sideways, there's a lot of different scenarios, but I could see being concerned as early as, 5 weeks from now, saying, wait a second, are some of these things we've been worried about, are they real? Is the retail investor ever coming back around to this? Having said that, I do just think this is the best way for the big money to take our money. For this to last one day longer than the longest we possibly think it could possibly last. So
I think, Tom, it's the end of this year. I think they know that they're not going to be able to suppress it when these numbers start to pop and people start to make sense of what's going on. And I think they're going to do everything they can to hold it down until after the first of the year. And then I think they go on a parabolic run, personally. And mark the tape right now, because you guys are going to come back to this and say, how does he know?
George called it again.
Yep.
I think something, I feel like you're right on target, George. I think there's a big catch up coming.
Yep.
Obviously, it's going to depend on what Bitcoin does. So, that's a piece of the puzzle, but I have not lost faith. I do not think so. Let's take a look at our poll. Are the Bitcoin ETFs the end of the Bitcoin miners? So this was actually 1/3, 2/3, 32%, almost a third of the people think yes, the Bitcoin miners are now dead money, essentially, due to the fact that people can gain direct exposure from the Bitcoin ETFs. But 68% said no, they don't think it's dead money. And now it is right at 1/3, 2/3. So that's interesting. So I don't think it's true, and maybe it is true in the short term. I don't think it's true by the end of this bull market. To me, what I'm looking for, and I guess it depends where the bull market runs, but my expectation was that we run to 150, and I've kind of changed that. I feel like we're probably going to run to 175. I have an article today about someone, one of the big analysts thinking we're going to 200 in this cycle. We've seen 250, 300. We've seen a lot of big numbers. So, we can speculate as to where we're going. But I think if we get to any of those numbers I just said, the Bitcoin miners are going to have gigantic runs to the upside. But if we start to see big pieces, and we've already, and the reason I said I could be as close as 5 weeks away from concerned is this run from 70 to 100,000 for the Bitcoin miners not to participate in that. We should be paying attention to that. I'm not saying it means everything and nothing and they're dead and they're done, but that is something to pay attention to. I thought that would have been the first big leg up in the Bitcoin miners. It was the last cycle around. Now, from a timing standpoint, the Bitcoin miners didn't start to move. Basically, from where we are in this cycle to last cycle, Marathon was at about $8 at this point, and they ran to over $80. So that was a 10x that they pulled from here to the end of the bull market. So I'm not saying they're going to pull a 10x this time, but we're ahead of schedule this time, and we just missed $30,000 of Bitcoin movement. The Bitcoin miners didn't participate in it. So it's on my radar. I can't ignore it, but I do think, we've seen conversely, you can mark the minute. If you look at these trading days, you can mark the minute where you can see somebody moved in and sold a half a day's volume worth short on these stocks. So when that happens, these are small companies. So they have been pushed down. They have been manipulated down, but I'm going to go to one company. Let me find this company. So first we'll look at MicroStrategy because we like to look at what this is doing. This is up 408% year to date. So this has been the big winner. We'll look at the Bitcoin miners year to date, but none of them approach this. This has been the big winner this year. But if I go to Iron, so this I found a little disturbing. Iron down 2.38%. This is one of the companies that did have a huge run up, but they're off of their highs, and their volume today was about 10 million. Their average volume is 17 million. So this is a low volume day, and on a low volume day where Bitcoin was going up, this stock just drifted downward. That's not a good sign in the short term. So this is why I'm saying retail, forget institutional investors. The only interest institutional investors have had in the Bitcoin miners has been shorting them for the last, significant period of time. But now the retail investors seem to have no interest. So when I see something like this, I need to see this turnaround. That's what I'm waiting for. This should have drifted up on average volume, not down on low volume. So, there's a million things to look at. But when I see something like this, it's concerning. Versus Riot, we got, and then I'll go because I actually never got back around to that. Riot was up 5%. It was the winner on the day. It had almost double its daily volume. So super high volume. And why did it have super high volume? So I want to stress as I read this, nothing actually even happened. Activist investor Starboard has built a stake in Bitcoin miner Riot. Now, why does that matter? Starboard is reportedly pushing the miner to convert some of its mining sites into data centers. So here we go, high performance computing, AI. Starboard has taken an unspecified position in Bitcoin miner Riot platforms, the Wall Street Journal reported, citing people familiar with the matter. The activist investor is pushing the company to convert some of its mining sites into data centers to capitalize on the hype surrounding HPC and AI. In addition to that, Riot actually responded, and Riot said it's engaged with Starboard on multiple occasions. So unlike the Riot Bitfarms scenario, Riot seems to be very, their opening gambit, if you will, is that, they've been very accepting of what Starboard is saying, and they're listening, and they're, mulling it over. So just a hint here that there may be some high performance computing, because they had been on record as saying, they were just going to mine Bitcoin. So now with the potential that there's a shift here, you know, with an activist group coming in and building a large stake, they could shift and boom, their stock goes up. So we saw back to my point on that rumor, this stock doubled its daily volume, and Iron, which actually is a company that's dedicated these guys are going to do high performance computing. They've gone as far as to say on multiple different conference calls, they consider themselves a data center, a builder of data centers, more so than they consider themselves a Bitcoin miner. Now, obviously, that's a little bit of hyperbole in my opinion, but data centers is what they're all about. And here they are, you know, without any specific news, just drifting down. It's that time again. We're at 82 likes. If you guys could do us a favor, if you just got here or if you have not yet, please do us a favor and smash the like button. We're going for 100 likes, and lately we've been going for 200. But let's try and get to 100 first. It is much appreciated, and it does help the channel and the live stream out a lot. So we'll end this poll. And let's get another one going.
What is my target range? My target range is a crazy one because I really think that they're going to sell the gold. And here's the thing, gold is not as valuable as everybody seems to think it is. There's so much gold that was just discovered in the last year or 2 years. It's insane. There's just a ton of gold out there. And because of that, I don't think the gold should even be priced at where it is. I think gold should be half of where it is, personally. I don't even know if it should be over $1,000 right now. I think silver's ridiculously low. And if Trump moves into, let's say he announces a 5% reserve, well, I think before the end of the year, he's going to announce a 25% reserve or HODL. And if he does that, I put it at 500,000, maybe even 700,000. If he doesn't announce that and we just get the 5%, I'm two and a quarter, 250.
So your price target fluctuates, but you think we're going over 200 either which way?
Yes. They're suppressing the price of Bitcoin right now. Remember, not your keys, not your coins. If you have Bitcoin, put it in your wallet. It's easy enough to do.
All right, we just went over 100 likes. Thank you very much, everybody. So, George, with that said, let me get to an article that goes right to that, because this Bitcoin reserve potential is, I think, it's a gigantic deal. So, this article came out a few days ago. Cynthia Loomis, laser-eyed lawmaker. The Wyoming senator has been a major crypto supporter since joining Congress in 2021. I want to get down to a couple of sentences down here that I think are important. Find them. Okay. Sorry, that took a second. The first one, Loomis tells us she hopes Republicans will pass legislation on it in the first 100 days of the new administration. And by it, we're talking about a Bitcoin strategic reserve. Just like we have a gold strategic reserve, we have an oil strategic reserve. So we have strategic reserves, right? Countries do this with commodities. So there's legislation on the table to do this with Bitcoin. And, you know, as a new president comes in, they always have a 100-day plan. So she's kind of saying, She thinks this is going to be a part of the 100-day plan. So this could be imminent. And then her bill would also sell off a portion of the U.S. gold reserves and buy 1 million Bitcoin with the eventual goal of acquiring a total stake of about 5% of Bitcoin issuance. So, to George's point, that would be shifting some of our gold into Bitcoin, and if the U.S. has 1 million Bitcoin in reserve, that's going to be a monster change in the math on all of the amount of Bitcoin that's available and on chain and all that kind of stuff. And SE, welcome to the Talkin' Investing Squad. Thanks for joining. Ooh. Sour Melon Gaming, thank you for being a member. Thanks for the super chat. Tom, if you could rob a bank and no one would ever find out, would you do it? Be honest. I feel like I just would never sleep again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's not like, easy. Take it from somebody that had to do questionable things in life. It's a very tempting offer, but I just feel like I would never sleep again. I'll never forget with those. Oh, should I say that? I don't know if I should say that.
I would. Then if you don't know, then I wouldn't. That would be the default.
Memories. I long for yesterday.
Would you, Sour Melon Gaming? Also,
I got one for you.
Go ahead.
How about the lady who stole almost $55 million in Chicago, who just got pardoned by Biden?
She stole how much?
50. I'm thinking. I don't know why I know the exact number. $53.6 million.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, but she's getting out of jail. I mean, she's old, but maybe she invested into Biden's campaign fund.
Barry C pointed out, and you are correct, Barry C, there's not much difference between 1 million Bitcoin and 5% of all the Bitcoin, so those two things are pretty much the same thing.
Well,
just going back to this bill that's getting passed.
I don't know if that's true.
Well, 21 million times 5% is just about 1 million.
Oh, issuance. I was going to say, but that's not what is outstanding. That's more. That's more than 5%. So just so you guys realize that if they get 1 million, I would put it more at 8% of the Bitcoin.
Well, there's like 19 million Bitcoin now, right?
Right. Yep.
Let's.
Well, there you go.
Let's go to the chart.
So what's that? 7.25.
There's 19.7. There's just under 20 million.
You're going up.
It's very close to 5%.
You think what is that from? When is it? How are you looking at the wallet?
That's the circulating supply of Bitcoin right now, based on the amount that's been mined.
Months? They've moved in the last 12 months.
Well, it's every 10 minutes, and it doesn't work exactly that way, but on average, every 10 minutes, there's new Bitcoin that is mined and added to the circulating. I'm not talking about the amount that's on chain. Yeah, I'm talking about the total amount in circulation.
I'm talking about dead.
Right, you've got
wallet.
Dead wallets. You've got Bitcoin that's been lost forever. That ranges. People guess that's anywhere from 3 million to 5 million Bitcoin. So you're right. 1 million. If you take all that into account, is actually a lot more than 5% of the real actual Bitcoin that hasn't been lost forever.
I would say it's probably closer to 10%. It's probably like 8%, something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right on.
Now, if they move to 25%,
And Andrew's saying the same thing. There's 19.6 million Bitcoin out there, but 3 to 4 million are lost.
Yeah.
And you can't find them. That's not how it works.
Well, you know what's funny? I was going in a what is that? Not the junkyard, the trash pit. And I was looking for a hard drive the other day. Did you hear all about that? What that guy was doing?
What the guy who lost? Yeah, he wants to. He's never gonna find that.
Well, I mean, there's somebody willing to put up like $20 million because I heard it's something like 300 million.
Yeah, it's an enormous. This is the person who accidentally threw it away, so they know that their Bitcoin is in the landfill, and they want to go search it. And it's like, but you're gonna go. You think you're gonna find a flash drive in a landfill? Good luck.
Oh, I thought it was a regular drive.
Well, even if it's a regular drive, I think
it was a regular.
Been drive. Years.
He can't figure out which wallet it is? But here's my point. That goes to show you how much Bitcoin has changed in this period of 14 years, 15 years.
Sour Melon Gaming, thank you again for the super chat. Miners are so far behind Bitcoin. Can they ever catch up? So I'm going to ask that question next, but I believe that not only can they catch up, but I believe if we measure from the bottom of the crypto winter until the peak of this bull cycle, I think the Bitcoin miners will have outperformed Bitcoin. Now, if we measure from today, I also think they will have outperformed Bitcoin, but that's only because they're lagging so far behind. So can they make up, your real question is, can they make up the ground that they lost this year and then some? And I think the answer is yes. And we'll go to the year to date right now and take a look so that we can talk about, exactly, let's quantify what we're talking about. So if we go year to date, so you can see Bitcoin's up 142%. And this is as of the close. This is what it was when the U.S. equity markets closed today. So 142%. Already TeraWulf, this year, TeraWulf and Core Scientific are outperforming that. Now, MicroStrategy's up over 400%. They're not a Bitcoin miner, but they're a Bitcoin play. So they're the leaders. These two are the top performing Bitcoin miners. But it's easy to believe BitDeer, which is on fire, and if we go back to Midway, one has been making money on that trade. It's easy to believe that BitDeer up 112%. Yeah, they'll pass Bitcoin. Hot up 105%. I mean, they should pass Bitcoin. Iron up 83%. They're in striking distance. Even Cypher up 48%. So the ones that you have to ask yourself. So to me, even CleanSpark only up 9% versus 142%. I mean, that is disgraceful performance as a stock. And again, that is my biggest position in my whole portfolio. So I'm disgusted about the performance, but I'm not disgusted about the company's performance operationally. I'm totally satisfied. And again, if you want my deep answer to that, I did a deep dive this week. So the last video I put out was 15 or 16 minute deep dive on why I think, and again, this is not financial advice, my personal opinion, why I think CleanSpark is doing a great job and I think their stock will catch up and pass Bitcoin. Then, and Marathon's down 3%. I think they'll pass Bitcoin. There's a couple that I would be worried about. BitDigital, Hive, Riot, and Bitfarms. Right? There's some if-thens on these, that have to happen. In other words, there's some changes that have to occur. There's some performance that has to happen that hasn't been happening. So it is possible, we've narrowed this list from 19 down to 12. Maybe only 9 of the 12 Bitcoin miners outperform Bitcoin in this bull run. That's possible. But I do think there are some that will outperform and some that will substantially. Remember, we're not looking to just one X 1-to-1 Bitcoin. If we wanted to do that, we'd just invest in Bitcoin. This is supposed to be a higher risk, higher volatility, higher potential payout. So, we're looking for these to do double what Bitcoin is doing. So that's where they really need to go. So CleanSpark has a long way to go. They have to go up over 100% just to get even with Bitcoin. Then they got to double again to outperform Bitcoin. So it's a daunting task, but they all did this in the last bull market. So in fact, they did much, much more than this. So I think there's, a lot of diminishing returns on the Bitcoin bull markets, and the same thing is true on the Bitcoin miners. They're maybe not going to have the same runs. We looked on the members only live stream. If you go in a year and a half, Marathon 80x'd. So no, I don't think they're going to pull a 80x this time, but I think they're going to have a huge run to the upside, right? Marathon at $80 or $100 is very, very easy for me to believe. That's my opinion.
That's what I'm banking on.
Midway, I think I haven't gotten to this one yet. Thank you for the super chat. What price do you think CleanSpark will bottom at? And do you think it will bottom next week? What price would you consider buying CleanSpark shares at? So, I got super close. When it went under $11 or $12, I got super close. If it goes under $11, I am going to dollar cost average into my position, even though my average in CleanSparks is in the 4s. But that really, I take that too much into account. And, it's my worst performer on the year, but it's still one of the best performers in my portfolio overall.
So if you had an extra $100,000 right now, would you buy Bitcoin? Would you buy CleanSpark, Marathon, Riot, or a combination of all of them?
If I had $100,000 to put in today,
I
would put some of it into Bitcoin. I would put some of it into CleanSpark. I would put some of it into Iron, and I would put some of it into Marathon. That's my top 4 right now today. And that is, like you like to say, George, it's a fluid situation. That's not the same list that I've always had. But right now, to me, those are the 4. Now, could I add Bitfarms to that? Because if Bitfarms if they can just get out of their own way, they'll do better than all 4 that I just named. So there's the most potential upside in Bitfarms, but it's by far the biggest risk in my opinion now. They went from a steady ship to, they got issues. So that's what I would do. That would be my top 4 right now.
I'm just repeating what somebody else said with this one. You can find it. George, if Tom is ever been too much of a smart ass, point out that if he had been in a better financial position, he would have been in a better financial position if he sold all his miners at the start of this year. Tell him he should listen to you more.
There's no question. Listen, this is how I look at it, because that is absolutely true. Look at this chart. If I had sold everything and just bought Bitcoin at the beginning of the year, all this CleanSpark I have up 9%, it would be up 142%. I would be way ahead. My thing is, I'm a long-term investor and I don't try to time the market. So if I had done that in 2023, if I did that in the 2 years of 2023 and 2024, I'd still be behind.
Listen,
because the Bitcoin miners so dramatically outperformed Bitcoin in 2023.
I think the only thing that disappoints me and listening and talking to everybody is that no one believed me on XRP. And I'm not talking about where the price is today. I'm talking about where the price was for freaking 3 years. Well, that really bothered me.
Admin believed you. Admin was a believer.
Right. And then, because it was all there. It just shows you how much social media and news, without going and doing, people just didn't do their research. And I've told Tom, I believe that's still the winner. And I'm going to tell you, and I know I get a lot of hate for this, but at some point in time, I believe it has a very close, if not higher, market cap than Bitcoin.
You think someday it will be the biggest one?
I'm not saying a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, but 10 years? I don't know. I mean, when you start moving money is around, what is it worth? 3 years is a long term. I agree. Yeah, thanks, Harrison. That's good to hear. I mean, it's such an asset that was when the government is beating up on an asset, that's the asset I like. When the government is beating, well, that's not usually the case on companies though. With stocks, you know what I mean?
So Jennifer's saying she would buy coins, and it sounds like not just Bitcoin. She's saying her altcoins are doing better. And, the altcoins have had the beginning of, we've had phase 1 of altcoin season for sure, but I think there's a lot more of that left to come. And the other thing that you can see on this chart is, look how bad. Riot was in last place for most of the year. Bitfarms has tanked so badly in the last 6 weeks. They're down more than twice as much as Riot is. They're down 34% on the year. This is my worst investment right here. So
sorry, as you talk about that, I'll go back to XRP. And Harrison's right about XRP. And we all understand how blockchain works, especially Bitcoin. It still takes 10 minutes to verify your coin or token, whatever you want to call it. And you think about it, XRP Lightning.
Yeah, it's a totally different system. It's a very unique system. I don't really think anybody else is doing what they do.
I didn't say 4 years. I said, but I would say 5 to 10 years.
Harrison is saying Cleanspark is down 4% year to date. It's not up. I'll double check my chart. I believe the last trading day of the year was December 29th last year. And that's what I'm comparing it to. So I'll double check that, Harrison, and see what's going on, because I'm showing up 9% and he's saying no, it's actually down 4% on the year.
Yeah, that's another thing, Harrison. The Bitcoin network is so clunky, they had to make a whole nother network called the Lightning Network, which is, what is that on the backbone of? Is that kind of like on Visa, MasterCard Ledger? What is that on?
The Lightning, I don't know what it's on either. I don't know what chain.
I think it's just a settlement. I don't even think it has anything to do with the crypto, to be honest with you. I think that's just a settlement network. You know? 1103. Tom is right. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I just double checked. My number seems to check out, so I'm not sure. So thank you. Somebody was doing that at the same time I was, I guess. Thank you, Midway. So I just double checked the same thing. It's up 9%.
Andrew, how is it built on top of the Bitcoin network? See, you got to understand, I'm a junior programmer. I understand this crap. And so I want to know how it's built on top of it, because I don't think it actually is. I think it's a settlement, like a Visa and MasterCard settlement, and then they just swap Bitcoin at the end of the day. That could be a code. But every time a coin moves in a Cash App, for an example, they're not trading that Cash App. They're waiting till the end of the day, and then they say, okay, we had 20, you guys had 5. Let's go ahead and,
right. That settles up periodically in batches.
Right. That's just like a Visa and MasterCard, and that's called a settlement. But, which has nothing to do with crypto, by the way.
And another point is the two serve very different functions. So right. Bitcoin is never going to hope to compete with the speed of an XRP. XRP has certain functionality that is different than Bitcoin. So they bring different things to the table, and they both have their own values, in my opinion. So, well, it's a fact that they're different and they do different things. But in my opinion, they both have value.
And I agree with it, and I believe they can exist together. But I still want to know who invented Bitcoin.
I think we're never going to know who invented Bitcoin. So one of the articles I saw this week was, should we get into this? We'll get into this.
Andrew, tell me what the coin is. What is the ticker symbol of the Lightning Network in layer 2? What is it? What is the ticker for the coin in the Lightning Network? I want to know. Because no one could ever answer that question for me. Because if it was, there you go. You know, it would be traded. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think a layer 2 would have a ticker.
Harrison, I don't think that's right. I don't believe it's built on a blockchain. Unless you're calling at the end of the night, there is no coin. Right. So if there's no coin, there's no token. There's no layer 2. That's not a layer 2. I know what a layer 2 is. A layer 2 is just one removed from a layer 1. A layer 2 is still a coin that's traded and verified.
I believe it's a blockchain built on top of the layer 1 blockchain.
It's not. That's my whole point.
It's a program built on top of the layer 1.
Yes. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. Look at that. In the past 24 hours, Marathon has mined almost $4 million worth of Bitcoin. That's so much money.
So if we want to talk Marathon, but first I want somebody in here, Fortuna Kasu, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, sorry. This is an interesting question. Am I the only one who thinks Riot's got some folks shorting the living crap out of Bitfarms? Right? Is that in their interest? You know, is that why? You know, and if we look year to date, you'll see, where'd it go?
Corey, I do believe it will be worth 20 trillion at someday.
Back in here. You can see that, well, now Riot has actually caught Hive. So these are the 3 bottom performing stocks. But Riot and Bitfarms have been in last and second last pretty much all year. But now Riot got this giant boost from this advocate group that wants to see them get into high performance computing. And now all of a sudden they're doing significantly better than Bitfarms. They were both down more than 50%, you know, a few months ago. So if you remember, let's go back in time just a little bit. This was November. The Bitcoin miners were just fine in November, right? This isn't a grand slam home run, but all 12 of these are green. 4 of them outperformed Bitcoin. 3 of them were pretty much on par with Bitcoin. So, you know, when you think about, this was a bad week. Today was a bad day, but can you extrapolate that all the way out to the Bitcoin miners are dead? Because this November was a good month. It wasn't a great month. This is not an A. You know, this is like a B- for the Bitcoin miners, in my opinion. So I don't want to get too caught up in any one week, because this week was a disaster. I mean, this is an F. Can you describe this in any other way than an F? These things averaged, you know, pretty much down 15% on a week where Bitcoin was flat, 0. So if you want to talk about Satoshi, I got an article here somewhere. Let me see if I saved it or not.
I actually that should be a good poll. Do you think not knowing makes it a stronger coin, or do you think not knowing makes it a weaker coin?
Let's get that up. So this was pretty close. Which do you prefer? 55% of this group prefers pure play Bitcoin miners over the Bitcoin miners that are getting involved in the high performance computing. But that's pretty close. 55 to 45 is very close to a tie. So thanks everybody for voting. Thanks everybody for smashing the like button. We're at 130 likes. So now let's see if we can get to 200. Much appreciated to those who have smashed the like button.
Tom owns Riot. Tom owns probably, how much of your portfolio is in Riot?
It's one of my big positions.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I have some positions that are doing, that person that said if I'd have sold all my Bitcoin miners on day one and bought Bitcoin, I'd be in a better spot. Who was that? That was one of our members. You're 100% right, because, you know, the miners that I have, other than Iron, you know, is way up. And the other thing is, I bought most of these over the course of time. So there's some of them. Riot's not one of them. Riot just recently went green for me. So Riot, for the longest time, was still life to date. I was still in the red, even though I dollar cost averaged all the way through the crypto winter. Most of my other ones I was green on, and now I'm finally green on Riot as well. But not by much. Not by much. So I'm obviously banking on the fact that 2025 is going to be a good year for the Bitcoin miners. I know Sour Melon Gaming earlier felt very bearish on 2025 for the Bitcoin miners, but I don't think this is dead money. So I think these things, when the fourth quarter of, you know, the quarter ended December 31st, 2024, you're going to see a lot of really good financial statements, particularly from those that are hodling Bitcoin, from Marathon, Riot, Cleanspark, and yes, Hut 8 still has one of the biggest stacks of Bitcoin of any publicly traded company in the world. So those four companies are going to have knock it out of the park, home run financials in that period. And then, in addition to that, you know, Bitcoin's now averaging somewhere over 90,000 in this quarter. And, you know, in the first quarter of 2025, it could be averaging $105,000 or $110,000. So you're going to start to see these things have positive EBITDA and positive GAAP earnings just on their own, even without the adjustment that they get from the change in accounting method, that the markup that they get to mark their Bitcoin up. So I think by the middle of 2025, you're going to see 6 or 7 Bitcoin miners having very good financial statements. So the market should be efficient. It should be out ahead of that. It should understand that. That should be getting priced in right now, but it's not. These are very small companies. Other things are happening, and this is the result. So we're getting a different look. And it's way behind where I expected. I mean, there's just no denying that. I thought we would be way ahead of this right now. Not Bitcoin. Bitcoin's probably ahead of where I thought it would be, and the Bitcoin miners are behind where I thought they would be. So I was wrong and wrong, for those of you who are counting.
Tom, you know I like poop.
Oh no, it's got the mask out. It's getting ugly. So let's take a look at what Cleanspark did. Cleanspark announces pricing of $550 million convertible notes. Guess what their interest rate is on these?
0%.
0%. So how the heck is your stock going down? You're borrowing $550 million, which, by the way, I think there's another $100 million past this. So it's probably going to end up being like $650 million. You're borrowing this at 0% for the next 6 years. So, you know, as far as deals go, that's about as good as it gets. Now, I will say there's a component of this deal that I still need to further understand, and I'll go down. These capped call transactions, I need to understand the timing a little bit better. Yeah. This is a hedge that they've put in place, but I need to look at time frames. So I need to do a deeper dive to understand when or if, because they talk about buying some of this right back, the repurchase of approximately 145 million of the common shares from investors in the convertible notes. Is that immediately? Is that at some point when these capped calls kick in? So I need to understand a little bit better, but that's 145 million out of what's going to be $650 million. That leaves $500 million for them to continue to hodl, you know, between 95 and 100% of their Bitcoin, which is their strategy right now. So they've got the cash. They said they need about $200 million to finish building out the infrastructure to get to 63 exahash. So here's a $500 million. So I think you're going to see them do all the things that they said they were going to do. I think you're going to see them get way over their 50 exahash target that they talked about for 2025. I think they could get to 70. That's my personal opinion. They outlined a clear path to 63 exahash. So to me, that's a number I would be looking for. And so, this makes them one of the big dogs. They got a great fleet, a very efficient fleet. Their cost per coin is good. They've got a big hodl position. I like what they're doing. And yeah, they went and borrowed. I like borrowing $500 million at 0% a lot better than I like an at the market program. That's all I can say. Sour Melon Gaming, thanks for the super chat. As he said, I don't want not to be bearish on 2025 miners, but it seems we have no new money even attempting to enter the space, and we're being shorted like crazy. And that is exactly what's going on right now. Retail investors have run for the hills, and the only time we get any action at all is when institutions start shorting. So that's what this last quarter of the year has turned into. But I do not believe that is a trend that runs out from here to infinity. I think there's, part of these shorting strategies, there's usually the other side of, right? These hedge funds they like making money on the way up. They like making money on the way down. They like making money back on the way up. And ultimately, they're not going to be able to fight the financial statements, in my opinion, as time goes on. And as the price of Bitcoin goes up, if we have the Bitcoin bull market that I think we're going to have. Yeah, and I mean, we all obviously, none of us know the future, but I don't think anything's wildly out of line with the last Bitcoin bull market. I did say, and I will say, I think we're way behind where I expect it to be right now as it pertains to the price of Bitcoin, not necessarily as it pertains to the timing of the halving, because we're just now starting to move into the time after the halving that the Bitcoin miners start to make their big runs. So over the next 6 to 12 months is usually when the Bitcoin miners make their giant runs to the upside. But, Bitcoin did run early this time.
So Tom, with this convertible note for CleanSpark, how quickly will they exhaust it, number one? And then number two, are they going to still need more money?
To me, the way I am looking at this, and from what I heard on the conference call, and from what I looked at in their financial statements, this to me is the money they need, I think, to get to 63 exahash. Are they going to need more after that? Yes. These companies are very cash-intensive companies. But we just saw, for instance, Marathon borrow $2 billion in the last month. So, this is going to be $550 million, and I think it's going to be $650 million. But so there's probably more to come. But I think there'll be some time in between because unlike Marathon, they're not going to run out and buy Bitcoin with this. They're just going to run their operations with this, do their CapEx, pay their bills, all that kind of stuff. So I think this will last for some time. And then in 2025, we'll get more convertible notes, in my opinion, from CleanSpark. They intend to be, a top 3 Bitcoin miner, and there's 4 or 5 companies that want to be in the top 3. So there's going to be a race. So they're going to have to keep up. But having said that, as they continue to grow, they're mining. Right, let's go take a look at this chart because this is the other way to look at this. If you look at this is the month of November. So to my earlier point, Marathon mined 907 Bitcoin. They are by far the biggest Bitcoin miner. And although their gross profit percentage is lower than a lot of these other companies because their cost per coin is higher, their total gross profit actually in the last quarter was the highest out of all the Bitcoin miners. So gross profit percent is lower. Their energy cost is a little higher, but net, they make more money. The second highest gross profit was CleanSpark. So They have a great gross, in real dollars. They're also second in Bitcoin mining, and it's not even close. Riot, which has a very similar exahash rate, mined 495 Bitcoin versus CleanSpark's 622. So I will tell you, Iron has added a monumental amount of exahash since these November numbers. They added a bunch at the very end of November. So I think their number is going to jump up a bunch, but I still think you're going to see Marathon first, CleanSpark second, and then who knows, Riot and Iron may flip. We'll see, but I think these will be the top four for a long, long time. Core Scientific really doesn't have any plans to grow their Bitcoin side of things. They are split 50-50 between Bitcoin, and they're a big Bitcoin miner, right? They mine the fifth most Bitcoin. It's worth noting, I'm going to go to a different chart because something just happened that hasn't happened in years. This is the year-to-date chart. Marathon will have mined the most Bitcoin in 2024. Core Scientific mined the most Bitcoin in 2023 by a lot. They mined the most Bitcoin in 2022 by a lot. Core Scientific. So those 2 years in a row, they were the number one miner. Well, Marathon has passed them, and now this month, with this November's results, CleanSpark has now passed the amount year to date that Core Scientific has. So they're going to go from finishing first in back-to-back years to finishing third this year, and I would predict they finish in sixth in 2025. So, and that will still leave them, they got 20 exahash, and they may grow from there, but I think they're going to probably end up in fifth or sixth place. So there's some companies with big, big, big growth plans. If everybody does what they said they were going to do, and they won't, because we've already seen some companies not do what they say they were going to do. But if everybody does what they said they were going to do, Core Scientific would end up in like 8th place. So I'm counting on a couple of people falling short or taking longer than expected. But it is worth noting, CleanSpark did just pass Core Scientific year to date in the number of Bitcoin mined. And you can see on a monthly basis, it's not even close. They're mining double the Bitcoin Core Scientific is on a monthly basis now. And they continue to grow. They grew in the last 3 months in a row. They've added significant exahash, and they're still said they're on track to get to 37 exahash by the end of December, which is only a few weeks from now. So you got Marathon, which was, they were at 46 exahash at the end of November. So, they'll be in the 50s. I mean, that's unthinkable. I mean, a lot of us can remember when the whole network was 50 exahash. It wasn't that long ago. Certainly 100 exahash was in the last cycle. And now you've got, you take the top 2 Bitcoin miners and that's... So that's the other thing that these guys fight against, which is why they need to do these at the market offerings and convertible debt, because you're fighting, the reward gets cut in half every 4 years. So you've got to grow to keep up with that. And the difficulty level continues to go up dramatically. So you've got to grow to keep up with that. Now, the one other thing that is in your favor is the price of Bitcoin continues to grow dramatically. So that does offset. So the two offsets are, you got to grow your exahash, and the price of Bitcoin has to go up. If all of those things happen, you're succeeding as a Bitcoin miner. That's basically my super simple equation. And obviously, there's a lot more that goes into it than that. Just jumping over to the 15-minute chart, Bitcoin is hovering. So we'll see what happens. The weekends have been fairly uneventful. We did have one weekend where we had a pump, which leads me to the ETFs, because the ETFs, obviously, they do not buy and sell on the weekends. So this is another reason I'm very bullish. Look at this run from November 28th, which was the market was closed. Every single day, we had one day at $223 million. That's the worst day we've had in December. Everything else has been between $300 million and, let's see, $766 million. And BlackRock has been all in. For whatever reason, on December 11th, they were zero. But Yesterday, 431 million, just under 300 million, just under 400 million, 250 million, 770 million, 571, just under 700 million. I mean, they have been buying Bitcoin every single day. They did take a breather one day, but BlackRock, you got to, George, you were talking about how they were suppressing the price. Well, while they're doing that, they are building. This is $35 billion of inflow into the BlackRock ETF. And by the way, that doesn't mean its value is 35 billion because the price of Bitcoin's gone up dramatically. This is more like 55 or 60 billion dollars of value of their ETF. So this is the fastest growing ETF in the history of all ETFs, and it's not even close. It's like 4 times faster than the next closest ETF in history. So it is fair to say BlackRock is all in on Bitcoin.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to zero. I got a message from a friend on Thursday telling me that Bitcoin's going to zero real soon.
It's going to zero. I'm going to pull up an article why they sent that to you.
And I said, so does that mean tomorrow? Or are we thinking next week? I said, you got to understand something. If it goes to zero, I think I'm okay with it because there's going to be a lot of people that lose a lot more money than I do.
That's right. That's exactly it. Bitcoin has crossed the threshold. They've reached critical mass. This isn't going away. You've now got countries talking about reserve. You've got some countries that have switched their currency to Bitcoin. You've got other major countries talking about having a Bitcoin reserve. We'll get to an article. Russia's talking about creating a Bitcoin reserve. I want to get to Midway first, though. Here's the BitDeer bull scenario. Thanks for the super chat, Midway. Here's the BitDeer bull scenario. 12 months from now, they might have the funding to make 60 plus exahash at 7 joules per terahash. So if this Seal Miner 4, so I will tell you, Midway, and you're exactly right. If this Seal Miner 4 can do what they say it can do, it's going to change the whole game. It's so much more efficient than the most efficient miner on the market right now that, that would be an absolute game changer. I'm waiting to see that. I think they will continue to, they're making their own chips now. So, their machines they're getting from themselves. And so this is their bull scenario, and also have enough megawatts for them, plus extra megawatts for AI deals. So, in that scenario, there's another one competing to be, a top 3 Bitcoin miner. That's why I'm saying there's 5 or 6 companies that expect to be a top 3 Bitcoin miner. So obviously, half of those companies aren't going to get there, but that doesn't mean they're going to fail. There's a lot of companies with giant growth plans, and Midway just kind of laid out BitDeer's growth plan. And it's twofold, and there's 2 companies really. I think now at this point, Marathon is getting a lot of their machines from themselves as well. And just quickly, while we're at it, at long last, this Ethereum ETF, which was a total bust, is now finally picking up momentum. So a month ago, life to date, there was an outflow of $500 million. So they have turned that around. They're now at $2.2 billion of inflow into the Ethereum ETF. You can see Ethereum took a nice run up in the meantime. Pulled back a little from its highs. Sourmelon Gaming said, what if Saylor is...
Yeah.
There's going to be no rug pull from Michael Saylor. I feel very, very confident about that. Obviously, nobody knows what's in his brain and his mind and his heart, but he is the face of Bitcoin. If you had to pick a face, you can't pick Satoshi because we don't know who he is. We were going to run that poll. Let's run that poll real quick.
I think that's a good poll.
Yeah. So the question is Bitcoin better off if we never know who Satoshi is, if we never find this out, which I believe that's the reality. We are, in my opinion, that ship has sailed. We're never going to know what person or group of people invented this and got this going. And my answer is probably yes. I think it is better off. So, and it's incredibly unique situation. I mean, it's wild. So I got a bunch of other things I haven't gotten to yet. So here, this was an article that came out by JP Morgan. Bitcoin miners are adopting the same Bitcoin acquisition strategy as MicroStrategy, and that's not quite right. Really, Marathon's the one that's taking their money and buying Bitcoin with it, but they do go on to say the strategic shift to Bitcoin accumulation model is due to pressure on profitability following the reward halving. I don't think that's right. JP Morgan has these. JP Morgan, to me, is the FUD creator on Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. Crypto miners are embracing MicroStrategy's Bitcoin acquisition strategy due to pressure on profitability. So they're embracing their strategy, but it's not to buy Bitcoin other than we see Marathon, which I'll show you something on next. Miners are increasingly financing their businesses via debt and equity offerings rather than selling their crypto reserves. So if you want to take it one step further in logic, they're using it to mine Bitcoin to increase their Bitcoin. So, you could argue it that way, but they're not straight up buying Bitcoin with it. But they have clearly, this is now at least 6 Bitcoin miners in the last month that have switched from at the market offerings to convertible debt. Now, in the middle of that, we did have HUT doing at the market offering. So there was one. So here we go.
Peek out, Tom.
All right, George. Thanks for
everybody for tuning in.
Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend.
I'll be watching.
You got it. All right, so this poll is a runaway. Is Bitcoin better off if we never know who Satoshi is? 92% think yes, Bitcoin is better off if that remains anonymous forever. And I think we can all rest peacefully that is the case. I think, it's at this point, if we don't know by now, it's not happening. And there's 1 million coins that have sat there. So I'm trying to see, there's a bunch of stuff I didn't get to, but let's just go into this real quick. First of all, this is a super quick one. So Microsoft voted no, the shareholders, but now we find out less than 1% of Microsoft shareholders voted for the Bitcoin proposal. So that is really shocking to me. I mean, I know there's big chunks of voters and they were against this, though I expected it to be very lopsided. I did not expect this to be 99% to 1%. All right, see you later, Sorrow Mountain Gaming. Hope you enjoy your weekend. He said, I got to run. Jennifer saying there will be corrections, and people are saying we are due for a 20% correction. So we're going to have, that's what Bitcoin does. We had 5 20+% corrections this year. And in every bull market, that is what has happened. So yes, I still think the next leg is up, in my opinion. I think the next leg is up before we have one of those corrections. That's just my personal opinion. We can do a poll on that. All right, so which do we think is first? Which is coming next? Bitcoin to 120,000, right? We're hovering at around 101,000. Or are we going to get one of those 20% corrections that we seem to get on a fairly regular basis? So the you know, to add to what Jennifer and Edmund were talking about, let's just remember, let's not panic in those corrections, because this is how they flush a lot of weak hands out of Bitcoin, out of the, all Bitcoin, all things related to Bitcoin. We get these pullbacks and we know they're coming, but it doesn't matter. Even though we know it's coming, when you're in the middle of it, it just feels like it's never going to end. That's the end of the bull market. And eventually, at some point, you're right, because, in the past, each bull market has come to an end. Now, if the cycle holds true, we're not close to that point yet right now. But, past performance is not necessarily an indication of future performance. And Donnell said, if we have the correction before the next leg up, the miners will get crushed. So I agree with that. And I have had that in my mind. I want to save some powder in the off chance. I don't think that's going to happen. But if we see the Bitcoin miners crater from here, then I will do some dollar cost averaging again. So we got the vast majority of people think that we're going to run to 120 before we get a 20% correction. So I'll let that go for a few more minutes and see what everybody thinks. In the meantime, I'm going to get back to, George's friend called him and said Bitcoin's going to zero. And I'm going to tell you why he said that, because there was 1,000 articles circulating around the internet, and it has to do with this. Google parent Alphabet jumps on the quantum chip breakthrough. So they came out with a press release on December 10th. And I want to get to a specific sentence in here. Give me just a second. Google on Monday introduced a new chip called Willow, which solved in 5 minutes a computing problem that would have taken a classical computer more time than the history of the universe. So I saw a different article that said it was 5 trillion times faster than the fastest computer. So one of the first natural things that went to is, well, a computer like that is going to crack the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain code, and Bitcoin's going to be dead. So all of a sudden there was this Bitcoin's dead thing going around. So if you followed up on this, there's these things called qubits. I don't want to get too deep into this. Some of you probably know a lot about this. Some of you probably know a little bit about this. So this machine had 100 qubits. That was like they're building up and up and up. But once the people in Bitcoin got involved and talked about it, they're saying they would need a machine with somewhere between 200 million and 400 million qubits to crack the current Bitcoin network. And this thing has 100. And by the way, you'll see even right here, it says, while being fast, are error prone. So these are totally different than normal computers. There's a lot of things that these things can't do at all. And in my personal opinion, we are many, many, many years, if not decades away from quantum computers being of any actual practical application. And I don't think, and you've seen Bitcoin recover. I don't think anybody truly believes that at some point, because remember, they can update the Bitcoin code as well. So I don't think we're in any danger of quantum computers destroying Bitcoin and taking it to zero. But that's why that was running around social media like wildfire. Trying to read some of the, because you guys are in conversations on the chat that I'm not up to speed on. So you can see I jumped onto one of these. A quantum threat to Bitcoin, question mark? So if I go down to that, what does Google's quantum computing chip mean for Bitcoin? Google's new quantum computing chip could mean Bitcoin is finished. That was the sentiment for some on Monday as the internet giant unveiled Willow, a quantum supercomputer that can perform certain computational tasks in just 5 minutes that would take classical supercomputers an astronomical amount of time. 10 septillion years, this is saying. But it goes on to say, but it's not all doom and gloom. While quantum computing does indeed pose significant threats to current security systems, it's not a master key to the universe, at least not right now, and there is no looming threat to Bitcoin either, and it goes on to explain in more detail. But you can see this is going on. You know, this came out 2 days ago. This was going around to the point where people were having to address it. So on our poll, which comes next? Bitcoin to 120,000 is winning 81% to a 20 versus a 20% correction, 19. So very close to our 80-20 rule. So I will end that poll. We got CPI data this week. It came in as expected, but I want to show you this Fed Watch tool. We are now at 97%. So those of you watching, I've been adamant that we are absolutely getting a rate cut at next week's meeting. This was as low as in the low 60%. It was very close to 60-40 within the last month. You can't see that because it says 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. So there were days in the middle where this got down to around 60. But that never made any sense to me. We're now at 97%, and this is a good place to be at. It's not good to go into these Fed cut meetings with a lot of uncertainty. That leaves the potential for a negative day in the market, even if it's just a knee-jerk reaction. And we still oftentimes get knee-jerk reactions on Fed Day, right? So it's December 18th, and Jerome Powell will come out. So they're going to, I think you're going to see a 25 basis point rate cut. That's built in at 97%. And then you'll get Jerome Powell come out and talk. And depending on what he says, sometimes there's knee-jerk reactions to that. So long term, I think we're going to get exactly what we expect. I think we're going to continue to get a series of rate cuts. People are getting more and more skeptical on that, but I think it's almost a certainty. They need to continue to lower interest rates for a variety of reasons that they're, in my opinion, pretty much locked into now. So again, that's just my opinion. You guys may vary or differ in that opinion, but I just wanted to show you. We've been tracking this as it went from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s, and now it's at 97%. So I think that's where it's going to settle in. And obviously next week, that rate cut, if it comes, will come next week. So that's where I'm going to end it, everybody. You know, it was not. Let's just take a look at this chart. This was the performance of the Bitcoin miners this week. Bitcoin was flat on the week at 0. And other than Riot being up 0.3%, every single Bitcoin miner was in the red. We had two. BitDeer's been on fire, so they were basically flat. Everything else, I mean, these weren't down just a little bit. CleanSpark was down 20%. Iron 15%, you know, Marathon 14%. Core Scientific down 8%. So Core Scientific and TeraWulf have been the two best performing stocks on the year. But even Core Scientific was down 8% and TeraWulf was down 13%. So this was a rough week for the Bitcoin miners. So let's see. I just saw somebody in the comments section say, let's get a reversal next week for Christmas. So hopefully we make up some ground next week on this. This was a rough week. I hope everybody hung in there. Thank you guys so much for joining us on the Friday live stream. We do this every Friday after the market closes. So thanks so much to the members. We will see you on Tuesday for the members only live stream. And again, if you want to check out, I did do a CleanSpark deep dive on what I think is going on there. You can check that out on the channel. So thanks again and have a fantastic weekend, everybody.